3. All right, let me get set.
What's going on, guys? Dude, I flubbed it. I didn't think you were going to talk after you clapped. All right, hold on.
Let me get set. I was trying to hold
you want to leave that in as an outtake? That'd be kind of funny. Dude, I'm just gonna silent count myself in on 3, and then you can do whatever you want. That way I don't screw you up again, because I did that last time. All right? 1, 2, 3. Leave this all in because it's too funny. And welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den, guys. As you can see, I'm not a video professional, and you know what? I don't care, because I'm in it for the fun. It's too much of a blast to do these things. Thankfully, King Z is back, and he'll right the ship. And
what I guess the pros call
post-production. I believe you're in hiding. We were talking about the undisclosed location. There may be a threat at the door, and King Z may need to leave in some kind of panic. Stay tuned for more on that if it comes up. Dude, what's going on, guy? What's life like in that basement? It just looks uninviting.
All right, so everyone get a little glimpse into behind the scenes of what I'm doing. I'm traveling to help out FedEx with contracts that are failing. I'm a delivery driver for them during peak season, which starts technically now, but it's officially Black Friday. And I'm currently in a state that I can't stand because I hate the state. Birds fly upside down over the state because it's not even worth crapping on.
Ouch.
And I live in a house with 4 other guys and a girl. So
the basement is where this is happening. So this is King Z's version of Narkina 5. That's how this is going down. Although it doesn't look like anything down there is powered, so I wouldn't worry about the floors electrifying that ass. Probably not a concern you have.
I actually had to go get an adapter today to turn the light bulb into a power adapter.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that. Dude, true that. Dude, with no further ado, then we got our yucks out of the way, guys. We're going to talk about Andor episode 10. Spoiler-filled review as always, because we're going to break things down scene by scene like we do. And we're going to get it kicked off, I think, with some basic impressions. Dude, I called you earlier in the week and was like, dude, have you seen it? And I think that covers the spread for what people are going to think I think of the video. What did you think?
I think it was a great episode. You can see that they're pushing the timeline to get to a certain point, especially towards the end of the episode. But once again, hands off to the actors in this. They are pulling out performance after performance, giving it to you guys for a subscription of $9.99 a month.
Yeah, true that, dude. And as usual, I think, once again, I feel like I pick out a particular, like, B-level actor or character in every episode we do, and I do have a favorite for this one as well. We'll get there. It comes up near the end in that final segment that we were talking about. I thought dude nailed that shit and hit it right out of the park.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I think this is my favorite one so far. We talk a lot about the ebbs and flows of these episodes as they come in mini arcs, and the finale episode of all of these 3-segment arcs have all been the bangers. You know, the episode 3, episode 6, and now this episode 10 here. I think this is my favorite of the 3. I think the Aldani heist was probably my favorite one leading into not today, but the last week. But there was this one was full of all kinds of good stuff. When the feels hit in this one, they brought every Mack truck they had. None of it came across as forced or didn't come across as contrived or phony. I think everything that they did was earned. They paid off a bunch of little things, in terms of what they were going to do for the actual escape, like the plan. They just pulled it off. Like they did what they said they were going to do. We lost some friends along the way. We'll talk about that as we get into it. But definitely, I think this is my favorite one so far. So I'm really looking forward to talking about the good stuff as it goes. I'm guessing this episode for us doesn't go on as long because really, like we were talking about earlier, even in a scene-by-scene breakdown, so much of it just happens fluidly at the one scene during the actual prison break that there's not a lot of conflict building here. This is a conflict resolution for the most part kind of episode, and the bulk of it, so there's not a lot to break down.
And it goes
frame by frame.
hand to hand with like how episode 6 went, where they stayed in like one location for a majority of the show. You didn't cut around. You didn't really see everybody else's backstory going on. It was a little bit at the beginning, and then once the trigger happened, it just stayed there until the very end, which is the way it should be done.
Yep, and the only breaks, like we were saying before, the bulk of the episode, this one, guys, is all about the actual prison break that Andor and his cohorts have kind of come up with. But just to keep everybody else like in the loop of what everything else in the world was happening, they give you like a minute in a couple of different locations. But each of those minutes kind of advanced forward the story of what we're going to be getting in the last 2 episodes. So there weren't any wasted time, any wasted segments.
It wasn't to make people feel like their character wasn't, I didn't get no screen time on this one.
Right.
No.
And you
each
see
one
that
was very important, and I think it goes hand in hand with this creator, these directors. They've been keeping that to let's keep this professional. Let's hit this, and let's make something people will enjoy. And I'm really looking forward to see what the numbers will be after all 12 episodes are done, and then people start doing the binge watching.
Yeah, I hope that as a separate aside, so we don't waste our sidebar too early in the show. I hope you're right on that. I was talking with my brother. I think I mentioned it to you the other day. After I saw Black Adam, I asked you if you'd seen it, and I said this in my Black Adam review, my solo review. I'm gonna be putting up tomorrow. I finished that today. I feel like Andor is going to be sadly an example. If it doesn't pan out like you just said, it's going to be an example of a company that brought in the pros to kind of right the ship after a couple of really catastrophic misses, but for whatever reason, like apathy or people just checked out or outright not like they're giving this show the Solo treatment, where after TLJ kind of just pissed a lot of people off, people didn't even want to give Solo a chance for all the problems that movie has. I think people were just out. And I hope Andor doesn't suffer that same fate, because it's not Solo. This is a well-constructed, well-written, well-produced, well-crafted, well-performed in however you want, whatever framework you want to use. This is a good show, and it's not a waste of time to watch at all. There's enjoyable elements every week.
Yeah, and to go on another sidebar, but yes, this is a great story. Great story, but to keep going on this, I watched an interview the other day with Matt Damon. And they were talking about, some of his niches were, those slow romantic comedies and stuff like that, which we're seeing less and less at the theater. And the reason why is they're not making their money back.
Right.
With the death of DVD sales is killing movies. That's why movies are so bad now, because all they can really do are blockbusters, because they have to guarantee that they'll get their money back. So they're going to be shoving the same stuff that's sold over and over down your throat, because people aren't going to theater, because now they have to make all their money back from the movie on ticket sales at the box office, because streaming contracts are only so much. They're only making so much off of that. And like movies today, compared to Titanic, which was the most expensive movie of its time, would be an everyday budget now. Compared to some of these movies. Like these movies are breaking $200-300 million to be made, and now you're expecting to make that back at the box office with a $12 ticket, which will soon be $23 tickets, because they have to make their money back. And then people blame the movie theaters, who are only making 25 to 50 cents off each ticket sale. They make all their money off concessions.
That's why you get a $15 small soda. You're 100% right on that. I think that there's a double down factor there as well. You talk about inflating budgets and things like that. I mean, imagine being a $200 action flick, maybe not a Marvel tentpole, but some rando Chris Helmsworth action flick that Netflix actually does make. But if it was a standard studio release that has a budget of $250 or something like that, they're spending that money in marketing. So you don't have to hit $250 to break even. You've got to hit $500 million to break even. And that's kind of an equation that's toppling giant IPs, like you said, not just Marvel, but things like Star Wars as well. When you run into the production cost problems that movies like The Rise of Skywalker had, that movie's original tab was only something like $285 million. But then they had to do reshoots, and then they had to add marketing in there. So the shadow story behind that is that that might actually be the most expensive movie ever made, in terms of reshoots and in terms of rewrites and things they had to do. And then you add marketing. There were people that were talking the total price tag for that movie might have been $700 to $800 million down the stretch. Imagine having to make $1 billion to make $200 million in profit to recover your costs and make $200 million. That's a flop. That's a flop no matter how you cut it.
And all the people see is they see the number like, oh, Disney made $1.5 billion. They have plenty of money to do this. But it's not those people who are going to be hurting. It's the people who actually make the movies. And then you're going to see the death of independent films, because there's nowhere for them to put it out there because I made an independent film. It cost me personally $300,000 to make. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, it's low quality. It's not like these blockbusters where I have to compete against amazing CGI when I'm doing a CGI here in my shelter here.
Yeah, right. In Adobe After Effects or whatever, right? Yeah. No, so it doesn't work that way. Yeah, no, that's tough.
We're literally watching the end of independent filmmaking. Because
as we know it, I mean, as we know it, I think that human beings have been telling stories since the dawn of time. I think we'll go through a resurgence. I think smaller independent films, when they get to a point where they're only competing against each other, when the bigger stuff topples, we'll be in a better spot. And then I think we might actually get some innovation back. We might get back to a point like it was in the 70s where big dog directors that were coming up, the Scorseses of the world from back then, the Coppolas of the world, when these guys are on creative footing that doesn't have to compete with a $500 million Endgame or, $500 million Star Wars flick or something like that, we can see things. And there is positive evidence of that too, but this is a show for a different time. But I mean, we're both into horror flicks. I mean, we look at things like Smile. Not a whole lot of CGI went into that, and I don't think you've checked that one out yet. That's probably the best horror movie I've seen in like 5 years, and it's blowing up the box office. Terrifier 2, destroying box office right now. I think their budget was like almost shoestring. It was something like you said, like 300,000 possibly, but it's cleared like 80 million domestic in like 2 weeks. Some bullshit.
And that's one of the beautiful things about the horror genres, because you have such a good ROI, because you only need limited locations, limited cast, and then the rest can be put into production value, props. I mean, everything costs money when you're shooting a film.
Right.
But I mean, you could do it for a relatively low cost and have a huge return, especially when you have fans of the genre and you don't give them the same stuff. The problem is finding that platform for the new type of stuff to get out on.
Right. I think one of the things we'll see forward, we'll get back on track after this, I promise. I just like to talk about this kind of stuff. We'll see an increase in successful filmmakers coming out of things using things like crowdfunding and things like that, where they can put together micro budgets, $50,000 to $100,000, and then deliver on competently done horror flicks or dramatic kind of movies, maybe some comedies. But it's like, because we're consuming media from different places. People are watching comedians on YouTube now that don't need multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix to be funny and get their stand-up out there, because then they can just sell their own stuff off their own websites and things like that. And as far as things like the horror movies go, you were saying, it's like we see this all the time, especially in horror, because like you said, the budgets tend to run lower. If you don't have a bloated budget, every dollar counts. And when you're in that position, you have to innovate. You have to be creative. There is no fixing it in post. Like, the things need to be done on the spot creatively and probably practically. And I want to see more of that anyway. I'm tired of digital shit. Most of it sucks. Right, exactly. So why don't we start talking about Andor episode 10 before we drive everybody away? That'd be great. I'm ready to do that. Let's do this.
Let's talk about what we came here for.
Yeah, let's stay on topic. We're like 10 minutes into this already. Anyway, so I'm not going to read my usual synopsis off the Wikipedia for Andor episode 10, because I feel like it's basically the scene breakdown we're going to give it anyway. And I don't want to give stuff away until we get there, because it's kind of like you were burying the lead a little bit. So basically, the synopsis of the episode is the prisoners on Narkina 5, led by Andor and Kino Loy, have finally had enough. To bring you guys back up to speed from last week, they basically found out that the Empire is completely fucking with them in terms of their sentences, and then the double fuck up was that there was a screw up in processing, and somebody that they thought was released and sent home after serving his term was re-entered into general population, revealing that the Empire doesn't actually let you serve out your sentence. They keep you. Like, it's a one-stop, you're dead end kind of thing. So they put the revolt underway. They have to take their steps to execute their plan, which all is done very well dramatically. We'll get there. And then while that's happening, the ISB starts to spring their trap on distant elements of Rail's organization. The bit with the captured pilot comes back. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
We get the update. It's a very brief update on Ferrex. They're in and out in like no time, where it's basically hinting that she is actually sick following her injury, because they're talking about a woman that's not taking her meds, like she's cheeking them and then not taking them. But they're in and out of that real quick. We don't see her. There's no Brasso, there's no Bix. It's rando characters and like a doctor. Mm-hmm. And then the dramatic conclusion is between Rail and an unknown ally that was in front of us all along, I'll say.
And then don't forget about the very small scene with Mon Mothma.
Oh, yes. Yeah, dude, it's funny because I remember that in the first place. I forgot the rail thing. Yeah, Mon Mothma meets with her friend Taze, or Ty, I think his name's Ty.
And a contributor.
Right, to a contributor and possible accomplice. That might be a better word given his background.
Yep.
So, anyways, like we were saying, guys, I thought this was a banger of an episode. I'm going to bring up the timeline and walk King Z and I through it. Yes, that's right. It opens up on the medical crew tagging and bagging Olaf, who died last week, and kind of getting him on the hover droid and kind of lifting him off and through one of the workrooms. So basically everybody is getting a look. They're all on program. They're all standing around with their hands on the heads, and they're getting a look at the body coming out. So they know that bad stuff has happened. Not a lot going on there. It's kind of dialogue free. Where the episode really gets underway is in the next scene, where Kino Loy, Andy Serkis, and Diego Luna as Andor have their first meaningful conversation of the episode, because this takes place right after Olaf's dead. They're carrying him out. They have a big discussion. It gets heated. Because we saw at the end of last week, Kino Loy's come around on the whole, maybe we are bone kind of thing, but he hesitates here, and Andor has to give him the talking to. What do you got for me?
So the beginning of it was pretty much just to establish the time frame that we're in, which is we're starting right where the other one left off. There's no time jump. We're starting right at this moment. So we're continuing the story from this moment.
Yep.
And then you can see throughout this whole episode the struggles that Kino has. Kino knows he made a mistake before, but he's one of those people who still believe, I do my time, I get out, I can make correction, I can be rehabilitated. And now that mentality is fighting with what he knows he has to do. And you can see that through these conversations up until the speech.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to call it.
Because it's speech one of two, because there's that banger at the end also, from the other guy.
Yeah.
What I like most about this scene here, dude, Andy Serkis again. I hate polishing the knob of the same people all the time, but this dude just sells the role. He sells emotional conflict. It's in his face. He's got the wrinkled brow, the veins are popping. He's scared. He's got the wide eye thing, and basically the argument here in what I think is probably Diego Luna's best performance thus far. Where he's in charge of this whole situation now. He's the boss now, right? He's basically telling Loy, or he's telling Kino, they go by the first names. He's on, dude, this is it. We got to do this shit now. These guys fried 200 dudes or whatever to keep the story suppressed. And we know for a fact we're going to have an opportunity to execute our plan because they're going to be sending down a replacement worker for Olaf who passed. You guys that haven't watched the show, I forgot, or we'll let you in on there. Their escape plan basically is when the lift comes down to work on the factory floor to bring in new personnel and have guards come down and shit like that. But then it goes back up, and then there's nowhere for you to go. There's no other doors to get out. Right? Yeah. So the plan they're gonna run with that they mentioned in episode 7 or whenever it first started is that when the lift gets halfway down, they're going to jam the track. That way they can climb up on that and kind of platform jump up to the top and hopefully just overwhelm what they figured are now minimal guards, because Kino confirmed for them there's never more than 12 of these dudes on station at any given time.
Yeah.
And that's the plan they're going to run with. In this scene here, Kino Loy completely is he's hemming and hawing, and I don't know if we're going to do it, and this and that and this and that. Yep. And Diego Luna's Andor is basically nah, bro, it's now or never. We have to do this or it's going to be too fucking late.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines, and I bet you picked up on this, is, Andor says to Loy, he goes, they killed 100 guys. What does that look like to you? And Kino says, looks like power. And Diego Luna's response to that is, that's not power, bro. That's panic. They did this shit because they know if the word gets out, they're done, because it's 5,000 of us versus 90 of them tops, when you multiply out.
Now this is a side off this one, but if you ever watched the movie An Ant's or Bug's Life,
old school,
and you have the grasshoppers talking, and he goes, if they ever realize they outnumber us thousands to one,
right,
they will control
We're done.
this. And it's the same way. They outnumber them by how many prisons. They keep them in line by the floor, the elevators, and actually having blasters. But
it's interesting you mentioned that, because I wanted to see if you remembered when Andor arrives on station to Narkina 5. One of the talking points the guards gives him is bro, look, we just got shock sticks. We don't need no guns. You guys are punks. all of a sudden, though, there's armed guards on top of the lift.
Yep.
There's a pair of them, and then the guys that are on patrol in the hallways and at the the comm stations, they all have blasters. Now all of a sudden, there's racks of blasters everywhere.
Yeah, it's only the people who actually handle the prisoners that have the shot sticks.
Which is typical in a lot of correctional institutions in America anyway, where they try to limit what can go wrong in arming the inmate population. But I just wanted to point out that they were talking smack that there were none. And, they were there. They might have just been hiding. But anyway.
Yeah,
so
we heard the whole
scene.
plan back in, episode, was it 8?
Well, they gave us the climb the lift and do the overwhelming thing. What they answered here was the bit of what he was sawing at in the restroom. Yeah,
they finally answered that question.
They reveal that. And it wasn't power cords, guys. It was even cooler. Should have seen that coming. Yeah. But so this is a great talking to with these guys. We see the reversal in who's in charge, just in the body language, because the first guy, when Andor is the first to line up at the door on program, when they're told they have to vacate that area, and Kino kind of falls in behind him. So you kind of see that it's the powers change hands a little bit.
Yep. And it was a very visual of
the, because he stomped up and he was like boom boom, and then Kino falls in behind him. But again, Andy Serkis just dominates. The guy just acts the fuck out of every scene he's in, with his facial expression.
He will steal a scene
conveying
no matter
everything.
who he's with.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Diego Luna's no slouch. I mean, the actor portraying Andor's, he's no bum. I mean, he's great on Narcos. You know what I mean? Like he's not a schleb. We're gonna go ahead and skip forward there. The last thing Kino says to him is basically, you have a plan, you and Barnock and Melshi, and he doesn't think that Andor has it figured out yet. And then basically Andor lays it down for him about the replacement, about what we're going to do with the lift, and what we're going to this and that. And that's kind of when he falls in line behind him right before they have to exit the processing area where they're going back into their block.
Yeah, it was almost him. That's when he agreed. Like, all right, we're moving forward.
That was half of it, because I think this next scene we're getting into has the other half of it when they get back in the block, and I'm always rewatching it as we go. Andor and Kino are walking back in the block, and everybody's kind of asking about Olaf. It's like, where is he? And he goes, and they know he's dead. And the other guys, the word kind of passes down the hall, because it's a long block, and you kind of have to, human phone the information down the block a little bit. And everybody's kind of like, oh shit, the old man's dead and this and that. But Andor's just giving the info. He goes, and he's telling people, new man tomorrow. They're asking what's going on. Cassian Andor's basically trying to tell Kino, just tell them what's going on. Tell them we're going to do this shit. But Kino Loy is still like, tell them what? Like, what is it you want me to tell them now? And it's not until they get in their blocks and there's a bit of panic that sets in, because they're talking about how the medic showed up and he couldn't help Olaf. And then basically he kind of implores Kino to just tell them what's going on. What happens you talk us through a little bit more of this scene here. Give me a break here.
Okay.
I'm just rambling because I liked it so much.
It was just good. It was really good. He started talking about he confirms the medic told them that everyone on the second floor was fried. Mm-hmm. Because a person who was released on 4 was put back on the floor on 2, and then they all found out about it, so they fried the whole floor. 200 men or 100 men killed.
I think the more we said, I think it was 200.
Yeah, I think it's 200 men that they killed to cover up their secret.
And then this is kind of where Kino starts talking to him a little bit. He's like, we're going to get our heads in ourselves. We're going to figure this out. I've already decided I'm already dead, so it's just a matter of what I decide to do with how we get out of here, kind of thing. There was I was trying to roll it back and see if this is the he says the rumors are true. There was a point, I thought it was in this scene. It might have been coming up later in Kino's speech and during the actual escape, where he's like, the Empire is messing with our sentences. It's all bullshit. They do what they want. No one outside knows what's happening here. Yeah, maybe that might happen later. So I'll sit on that until I see it in the timeline. So the next scene up is the ISB scene that we get, and this is good again because it has 3 great characters that are involved with it, and I'm surprised we didn't talk about one of these 3 previous, because he has actually had some speaking lines. The Lonnie character, as he's named later, when he meets up. But basically, we have the ISB are kind of assembled in one of their ready rooms, their conference room, Daedra Miro's getting a report that the plan that they had about kind of drawing in the rebels by putting the killed and captured pilot's ship back out there to be found, but to make it look like an accident. They basically confirmed that the plan's working, that the rebel group has come forward to claim the ship, under auspices if it's a transport. It's not an X-Wing or anything like that, just a regular freighter or something. And they basically we're moving forward with them. That it looks like their plan is working and they're going to be able to have a lead to follow up on. But what is cool about this scene, I think Radagast the Brown, I don't know, whatever the fucking guy's name is. Yeah. Qyburn from Game of Thrones, the lead ISB guy, because I like him. He does this thing again, but this time he does it to Lonnie. Because Daedra kind of falls back a little bit, and she's like, should we ignore it? Should we do this? Should we do that? Lonnie basically says, well, no, I don't think we should fall back, because the most obvious thing we could do, that the ISB would do, would be to investigate a murdered pilot or a dead pilot, and wreckage floating in space. It's procedural. It's bureaucratic. It's what a government would do. It's like if we found a ship floating off, the Boston Harbor over here, what would we do? We send the fucking Coast Guard out to take a look. If we didn't do that, that's suspect as hell. Yeah. But what I wanted to mention just most about this guy before you go, Partagaz here, I think is his name, the head ISB guy. After Lonnie says, I don't think we should step away, he just goes, go, or why? But it's that tone, it's that same headmaster, professor, teacher tone that he took with Miro when she was like, thesis? And then he explains why, like how I just said. And you're like, dude, that's just some good shit.
Yeah, it's there. He's testing them to prove that they know their facts,
right?
And that they're not just coming up with stuff like shooting from the hip. They've thought out the plan, and that they're going to execute a well thought out plan instead of winging it. And that's why he asked those little questions like why?
Like thesis, like explain why you want to commit the resources that we have to this point of action. And I like that because again, that's how stuff actually works. You don't just roll up on your commanding officer with some dumbass idea, or then if he disagrees, you don't dress him down. Like, that's not how the world works. No. That's what this show continues to get right. The crappy shows like Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, and New Star Wars, they all get wrong. If that dude had stepped to the commander and tried to bust him down, if the commander said, no, we're not going to do that, the ISB would have hung him. I mean, that's just how that is. Yeah. But in real life, you're going to get the dress down. That's not even just military. That's just that's corporate. Like when those dickheads tried to storm the boardroom at Netflix during a closed door meeting to complain about the Chappelle stand up. Like, did they think that was a good idea? Did they think that wasn't going to cost anybody their job? Like, hello, Susan, you work in accounting. Why are you barging into a C-level executive closed-door meeting to run your trap? Like, it's just not what, this is real world. It's fiction, but it's real world. It works.
And then his little, kid in the candy store look, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. All right, moving right along here. We're back on the cell block. Everybody's kind of coming online. It's the morning shift. Andor's kind of waking up. They're going through motions. They're kind of all the prisoners are kind of looking at each other, but they're all doing the silent, the nods and the head tilts and everything. A lot of nonverbal communication. But this is Kino giving them the speech now. I'm going to assume I'm already dead. You guys can play it any way you want, but today's the day. It's going down today. Either
There's only
but
one way out.
He has an interesting only one way. And I love that line too. One way out. One way out. It was good shit. Yeah, he's logical too about getting these guys together. We can't warn the night shift. They're going to hear about it anyway. We just got to stick to it. Let's make it look good. Yeah. So basically, he knows that for this whole thing to work, they have to keep their shit together long enough for the new guy to come down to the factory floor. They have to be on program. They have to go to their workstations. They have to work at the same clip that they would always work at. They can't fall behind all of a sudden. But they're kind of falling into formation and leaving the block. I'm waiting to, I don't remember if there's no more conversation between Andor or anything. We get a panoramic. Yeah, go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was little words here and and then mostly action just to show what's going on. There wasn't over explanation, no exposition. It was just let's do this and show the people what's going on.
Well, and it's effective because they don't have to tell me that it's really important every single step of thing that they do, like how we just described it. I described because I saw what they did, but though that wasn't actual dialogue that he laid out. It's like, oh, remember to do this, guys. It's like they know it's on. Like they're gonna die if they don't pull their shit together. Next scene in are the I wish they had a block number because they're just like their workstation 5. I don't know what their block number is. But it's basically Andor and Kino's blocks filing into work. We're getting a lot of stuff on the PA system that's basically like, all right, from now on, change in plans, guys. All transfers in and out of the work zones are in complete silence. Everybody's on program at all these designated times, and non-compliance is just like unit wide. We're gonna activate the floor without warning, kind of shit.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's a way of them showing us that the ISB is nervous. Like, this doesn't need to have been a thing because that wasn't procedure a week ago or 10 days ago, whenever it was. Like they're starting to panic a little bit, but it's not overt. It would be a very logical thing to do for the COs in this environment. Like these are things you would do. You would lock down between shifts. You would go with the silence. You would go with increased supervision or decreased leisure time and shit like that. It's exactly how it happened.
Yep, it'd be more, as they said, squeezing of the fist on them. Taking power.
Yep. So we shift real quick. They're right back into the factory floor. I'm watching in real time. Kino and Andor's team, they're making their widgets, which like the space toilets. They could be FTL drives. We have no idea. It doesn't matter. They do mention that it's something they need, and that was one of the things Andor said to Kino to convince him. If you remember from the beginning, he was like, "Yeah, they're not trying to slow shit down here. Like, we're making something they need. We're not out here just like, breaking big rocks into small rocks. Like, they're making some kind of durable mechanical. It looks like an engine component to me, if I had to call it anything. Like, it's big. It's not nothing you and I could carry together. It requires a lift and a crane.
And if you want to tie it into Star Wars, it's probably something for the Death Star.
So you broke up, dude. So it's probably what?
It's probably something for the Death Star.
No, given the time period, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's actually really
time period where this is happening. They were putting the final touches on the first Death Star.
Mm-hmm. All right, so again, we're on the factory floor working. We got Andor and his guys are putting together the widgets. They're still throwing glances at each other, but it's really quick. We're not eyeballing guards yet or anything like that. We're kind of building into it, but the tension's rising because very creatively, very well done. The music that they score these scenes with is starting to pace up little by little as they get closer to when they're going to make their move.
And that's what a good composer of a film does. The music tells you how you're supposed to feel.
Yep. And when it's done right, it matches the pace. It mirrors pacing perfectly. Like, I guess you could say it creates pacing in its own way, the same way the visuals do. But when the music works and it's not out of place, it's like you said, it's like adding absolute like adrenaline boosts of things that when it goes down. Yeah,
it exactly adds the feeling, and like music has more attachments in your brain. Like smell is connected to more memories than you just sitting there or than visual. And that's the thing with music. Music's trying to trigger emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dude, I'm going to sidebar off of that real quick because I don't know if we mentioned this earlier in the year before I started doing videos on my own. Somebody challenged me to watch the trailer to Thor: Love and Thunder without the sound on. And I thought that was a really interesting idea, right? Because when I saw the trailer, a year ago, I'm like, oh, snap, Guns N' Roses in the trailer. They got Sweet Child of Mine and Thor smashed it up. Like, oh, yeah, dude, take my $15, please, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the movie, and it's probably the worst Marvel movie that I've ever seen. Like I haven't seen Eternals. I know that's ranked as the worst. But for me, Love and Thunder is absolute dog shit. Like, it's right down there. I haven't seen Wakanda Forever yet, so I can't rate that either. I don't know where that would stack. I'm hearing a lot of the same issues with that as with Love and Thunder. But when you talk about the music adding to it, I was like, there's two takeaways. You're absolutely right. They preyed kind of on my nostalgia for the song. Number one, because I love Sweet Child of Mine. And then number two, because it's such a thumping action song, when Thor's drop kicking shit and smashing things with the hammer, you're like, oh, like this is some shit. Like, I got to go see this. But without the sound, not only did I not have any feeling to take away from the trailer, I had no fucking idea what the movie was about.
Yeah.
Like, you have no fucking idea. And it's not just because I can't hear the dialogue. It's like because literally the shots that they use, the compositions they use, just show me things in different places, but nothing is shown in context. Like, there's no cradling of like a dead body. There's no watching Asgard explode or anything like that. So you really have no idea. Like, you can't infer anything from what they give you. And you're exactly right. They use the music to play on your emotions in that moment to go, oh shit, I guess I'm going to see this when it comes out.
Yep.
They're smart. There's some industrial psychology going on there. But next scene up is that quick shot on Ferrex. Dude, I'm going to let it run while we're talking just because it's over so quick. But it's basically a couple of locals. I believe they're friends of Marva. They make it a point of walking by the ISB hotel with his guards mounted. They got like a heavy blaster lined up like in a bunker. So we know it's fortified. They're basically going to talk to a doctor who's making house calls. And they're talking about Marva, how she's not getting any better. She's not taking her meds. She thinks it's putting her off of eating and she doesn't want to do it. But the interesting thing that happens here is we see Cinta.
Yep.
All right. And Cinta, excuse me. Cinta's still casing Marva's house up, waiting to see if Andor rolls through because she doesn't know that he's locked up. He had no idea.
Yep.
But then, I had a question about this for you. When she walks away and gets out of frame, there's another dude watching her house. And he looked like he's asking a local, for directions because he's pointing out it's over there. Is that guy ISB? Is that one of the ISB guys?
That's what I'm thinking. He's either ISB or he's with the hotel, keeping an eye on her because they know Andor would come back. She's the bait.
Yeah, God. Yeah, because nobody uses his name, and the only exchange is with him and another guy that walks by him, where the other guy's line is, "That's it over there," and then the guy we're talking about just says, "Oh, okay, thanks." And, like, he just continues, like, looking at, I think it's Marva's house that he's looking at in frame, because Cinta kind of walks out and away from it. Their house is here. She walks out, and he's still looking, like, perpendicular to it. Yeah. So I think maybe he's just, like, spy on the ground, eyes on the ground.
Yeah, that, or he knows who she is.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could go either way. They did
mention. You're right, though. That's an interesting possibility because they did mention before it's how the ISB was able to tie Andor to the Aldhani thing because they had eyewitness reports and they had some surveillance. Maybe somebody on Ferrex recognized Cinta as being the ISB guard that kept the hostages prisoner before she made her busted ass speeder bike escape. You're right. It's a possibility. Good thinking, dude. Next scene up. This is a good one too. Very subtle. This was very Game of Thrones, and I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this scene when after I talk you through that. We're at the embassy, or whichever is it the Galactic Embassy? This isn't her place. I think this is their seat of power. I think it's the embassy building. It's one of Mon Mothma's suites.
Yeah, it's one of the ones because she lives in the embassy for her planet.
But this wasn't her home that they were in, though. I know she lives there. But this wasn't her condo or apartment or whatever.
It's kind of like the West
Wing.
Was
this more of a formal
of the White House is where they work.
Okay.
There's also the residence of the White House where they live.
That's probably a really good corollary. So she's hanging out with her buddy Ty. Mm-hmm. They're accepting Davo, who is the connection that Ty had made with, he's got some access to money and maybe some unscrupulous assets on they infer it's a criminal organization kind of thing, very shady, very mafia kind of thing. They have a talk. They're kind of feeling each other out about, can you help us in this cause? We've got some money issues. He comes across very understanding, very, very libertarian in his own kind of way about, it's your money. You want it. You just want what's fair and this and that. What I love about this scene most, two things. I'm going to bounce them off you. Mon Mothma looks increasingly uncomfortable the longer it goes on. Her hands are flat on the couch. She's starting to twitch a little bit. I wasn't sure if it was anger or sadness or what, but she kills it. And then I like this Davo guy because he's an opportunist. He's just like a dude that wants his money. The Empire's playing a game. We're going to play it, yada, yada. But he has a very Game of Thrones, very reasonable ask that Mon Mothma balks at so hardcore that it's going to be interesting when she inevitably has to go crawling back to this guy. Yeah, because that's coming. So give us your breakdown on what happened here.
So he was just asking for an introduction, have them come meet, which you're finding out that pretty much their culture is that it's pretty much arranged marriages that happen in their culture. It's what is done on their planet, and this guy is trying to get his family into the upper crust because a crime lord can only go so far. You have to finally start making those connections and get those family connections.
Right, he's trying to legitimize. Exactly. One of my favorite parts about that bit when they had that conversation, Mon Mothma's like, why on earth would you think I back that particular tradition? He's like, to pump the brakes. I'm not asking for a betrothal, just an intro between his teenage son or whatever and her daughter, who we've seen the daughter very obviously like she's 14, 15, 16, because he says she's almost come of age, like she's almost there.
Yeah.
I have a son that's the same age. I just want to put them in a room together so they can meet. There's like, and he plays it such a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like there's nothing there's nonchalant, like there's nothing skeevy about it. The music doesn't go all ominous. You know, it's not like he's trying to like set her up in like a sex trafficking ring or anything like that. But it's like, it gave me flashes of House of the Dragon, which I just finished watching when that show wrapped a couple of weeks ago, where that whole show is basically about which families can we put together to consolidate power and make an alliance out of. And here it just is like you said, he's trying to legitimize his station, because he basically tells her, they ask him what his price is for the help, and he's like, I don't need it. I got more money.
I got money. I don't need
your
money.
Percentage doesn't matter to me, right? Because I have so much money, I'm good. Like I don't care what you. Like having this amount of money, I don't have to care about money anymore. I'm good.
Yeah.
But what did you think of his performance as a character, the mob guy? I think his name was Davo.
Yeah, he portrays as the mob guy who he's like, I made it. Like I'm here now. I'm at this level. I don't have to be that hustler, that slime ball. I can smooth people because people are going to come and need me now because I know how to beat the system. But like you said, he is looking for legitimacy now. He's looking to become part of that upper crust of their planet, which I honestly can't remember the name of the planet right now.
Chandrilla.
Okay.
Yeah, Chandrilla, yeah.
Yeah, I remember they were talking about the chandelier was a fixture from their planet. That's like a fixture in all the upper crust house.
Mm-hmm.
So
they've laid on the culture for that kind of stuff really good, because they had mentioned the chandelier, the drinks Mon Mothma was drinking with her husband. They had like the worm things in it. That's part of their home culture. Like you said, the arranged marriages is part of the home culture. They've had 3 or 4 different things that felt like really good, like authentic world building. And because I didn't know anything about that planet before this show.
Honestly, I didn't even know where she was from. I just knew she was the leader of the Rebel Alliance.
The only reason I know is because when I was researching for like a week, like when whatever her first appearance was, it's like, I don't think she's from, because that was our conversation. I think we both thought she was from Coruscant or Corellia. No, it was the third C. It was the other one that we don't know. So, it's kind of cool. But yeah, no, I like this. I like this guy a lot. I like one of the other things he said was, I like the architecture in here. And then Mon Mothma goes, it's kind of old, it's kind of classic. And he goes, I like new stuff. I know it's kind of trashy, but I don't care. And one of the benefits of having a fuck ton of money is you don't have to care what people think.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, the ball's on this guy. I like him. I don't care. I don't care if he's a bad guy. I don't give a shit. It works for me. But basically, to wrap the scene here, she balks at him, more or less. It's like, Tay, show him out. Like, we're good here. And he very politely puts his drink down and says, all right, I'll be out and this and that. And he said the closing line there is, you take some time and think it over and get back to me. And Mon Mothma says, I don't need to think it over. And then he says something like, you already are. And she says, no, I'm not.
It's the first time you lied to me.
Yeah, he said that's the first untrue thing you've said today. So he's obviously very astute, which I like that kind of character work. Like this guy's not just there to have given the obvious line to give in that scene to get their point across. Like, it was very cool. It was very well delivered. There's so much to like about it. Everybody on the show is a pro. Yeah. And it just shows, because this guy, even if we never see him, and we're probably going to see him again, I would imagine, but even if we didn't, I'll remember that line for a while. You know what I mean? Like, it'll stick with me because it was such a badass thing to say without being overt. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't blustering. He wasn't all up in her face and grabbing her shirt and, you lot. Didn't need to do that. Like, it was just really subtle and really chill.
When you have that much money, you don't care what other people think.
Right. He doesn't need her at all. Like, what does he need her for? Nothing. He's rich.
Nothing.
He's rich. Right.
So this goes into a thing me and my wife were talking about today too, with cast. Like, this cast is amazing, but
dude, most definitely.
This cast with the writing is what's making this perfect. Because no matter how good your cast is, if you have crappy writing, you're still going to get a crappy product.
You're cooked. Absolutely. Because only the best of actors can elevate crap into average, I would say. No one can elevate crap into S tier stuff. It just can't be done.
Yeah, if you polish a turd, it's still a turd.
Yep, do it 100%. Dude, on that note, it's interesting when you start talking about performances across the board. I would have said until today, or until that episode, that Andor might have been not that it was ever bad, but like the lowest performance. Like not. It's hard to quantify.
He was like par.
Weak.
He was the par of the course.
Right. Because, like I said, even the background guys that have a couple of lines are up here.
Yeah.
You know, all the ISB guys. The ISB wife that was terrified when she was being held hostage. Now we've got surprise character at the end of this one who's good. All these characters, all these actors are turning in banger performances at every turn. And I think I figured out why, too. I think for me, it's because everybody's not overacting every fucking line they have. And they deliver things in a way that's consistent and makes sense within the context of what they're doing. So it's not people yelling at each other every 5 seconds. So the performances are all on point, and it's one of the things I appreciate across the board from everybody from the above the fold to down the fold. Characters that only have a couple lines, it's all really good. And we get a mention actually of that in this next scene right here. It's Clea comes into the shop. That's Rael's shopkeeper, who's obviously part of the rebellion. She's kind of hardcore. Like, she don't pull punches either. She's pretty iron-fisted, cold-blooded. She's letting him know that a communication from an ally has come in.
Yeah.
And that is that when the Krieger mention comes up? No, that didn't happen yet.
No.
We're just skipping it. That's where it's basically their contact with the ISB, as we find out, is requesting a meeting. And she's basically warning him about, dude, it's probably a trap. Maybe you don't want to do that shit. And he's kind of like, no, let's see what happens. I'll go check it out. Not a lot that's basically just a setup for the last scene.
Yeah, she even kind of recommended him to like hop on a ship and leave for a little while. Like they might.
She does. She says,
to
take
us.
the Fondor and bail. Yep.
Yeah.
True that.
And he's like, no, we gotta play this. We gotta play it to the bone.
All right, so we're back on Narkina 5, and this next part, guys, this is like a big, I don't know, this scene probably goes on for like 10 minutes, 12, it's long, like they cut for me at 15, actually, by the look of my timeline here, but we've come to the part where basically the prison break is executed. I don't think we need to break down, I'm just going to let it play while we're talking, but we don't need to break down frame by frame. We just talk about good parts and bad parts. It kind of just runs through. But we get like one more reminder from from Kino that, oh man, we're 2 racks behind and I'm not losing the shift and this and that. But it basically just creates that atmosphere of fake business as usual. And while that's happening, Andor's making his final play in the restroom with a critical aspect of the plan that they've kind of sorted out that they need. So what's in the pipe? Finally, you get to tell us. Big spoiler reveal, dude. What's in the pipe in the bathroom?
So first you hear them talking a little bit too, like, I'm already dead. I gotta play today like I'm already dead. Like,
you're talking about the guys hyping themselves up at the table while they're working.
And then Andor's like, I'm gonna make my run. And he goes, and they hand him something. He slides up his sleeve, and you're thinking that he's setting up to like be the attacker as the thing comes down.
Right.
But no, he goes back into the bathroom and starts working on this pipe. And like when we were talking about the plan, it was like they never mentioned the pipe, and they were talking about the plan. They were talking about overwhelming them, jamming the elevator,
the track on the elevator,
then climbing up, and then taking control of the guns. Then once you have the guns, and you have the high ground, you control.
Yep.
Just ask Anakin about the high ground.
That's right. Hello there. And see, they very cleverly, just to interrupt you real quick, they very cleverly addressed an aspect that, you and I as writers and storytellers, these are things we would have had to have thought of as well. Like, they basically, every horizontal surface in this entire installation can be electrified like that from any control station to basically suppress rioters and things like that. So I've been thinking right through, like, dude, how are they going to get around that? Because they were saying part of the initial plan that he went over with the other inmate who they never named, so I don't know who he is.
Oh, they did. It's like it's another B1.
Did they?
Yeah.
It was. I don't think they ever said it. Was it in credits? Because I don't think. I have the subtitles on. Did they actually say it?
Yeah, they said his name, and then that was one of the names he named when he was talking about his co-conspirators when they were first talked at the beginning.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my bad. I thought that was somebody else at the table. No, never mind. Yeah. But basically, like that, like you said, that was their whole plan, is that they noticed that the lift surface wasn't electrified. Yep. And I'm like, okay, so they need to get to that, but how are they going to get across the floor? Because at any given point, if I see the fucking riot going on, I'm not waiting for an order to come down. I'd be like, red button.
Yeah.
And we're going to fry the fucking floor, and we're going to call that shit a day. But my man in the bathroom hacking up that pipe.
Yep. So he's sawing away, and then he realizes he starts hearing them talk about be on program, he knows the new guy's coming, so he's like hustling. And then all of a sudden you see that he starts putting that big pipe, that big wrench thing in there, and he pops it, and then you start seeing water come out of it. And then he keeps going, and then he finally breaks it, and water just starts gushing out of it. You didn't even see him. He got kind of
across the floor.
And then he comes out, like you could tell that, you know, he was up to something, unless he had a really bad time in the bathroom.
Yeah, and I don't know, it looked pretty clear to me, so we can at least think he's well hydrated. So I mean, good for him on that. Yeah. But I know, so that addressed that critical issue there, and it was cool too. I like it because it put them up against the clock without it didn't feel forced. Like they didn't have to do it by noon or something like that, where there was like a digital clock on screen. It was like they were going about their day. They didn't know when the lift would be coming down. So it's not like he could have cut the pipe first thing in the morning and had water over the floor. Like as we see later, like sensors within the system, like in any modern building we have, oh, did we get a water main break on, you know, deck 5, whatever, yada, right? So he had to wait basically until they thought somebody would be coming down, like later in the day, then go in and do it, and then realize how close he had cut it. Because, like, dude, he has the worst hacksaw file in history. I don't think that thing cut any kind of gash in that pipe at all. I think the whole thing came from him just pulling on it and trying to wrench it up. Like he nicked it. He might have nicked it a little, but the thing caused no discernible visual damage that I can see.
He put a dent in it so it could bend right.
Right. He might have been better off biting it. That's how crappy the file looked like.
Yeah.
But so basically, so they're bringing in new health. They're bringing in new workers. The same old guard giving the new guy the lecture about the stun rod and, you know, fuck around and find out. And it's kind of funny how that resolves, because that resolves kind of cool.
And then you see them do their normal like guard shift thing. Like, we need someone else here. Okay, now they got the overwatch. Everything clear. All right, moving forward.
Yeah, I'm going to move it right past the part where he comes out. Andor soaking wet. Kino Loy gets everybody like on program. You know, he's getting them all set up. And let me see here. I think by this point, the guys have already kind of surreptitiously loaded the tables up with little pieces of equipment and throwables and things like that. Like they basically, you know, it's very subtly just put this component here and, you know, this component here. And some of the guys, when they're on program, have like the wrenches kind of behind their heads, like they're just ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yeah, they did that shot behind them so you could see it all.
Right. They're very cool. Actually, it just came up right now. And then when the elevator starts to come down, this is where they spring their plan. They get two of the guys from Andor's work table to kind of stage a fight. Oh, you got something to say to me? Oh, I better say it now. Draw all the attention because it's kind of set in the back a little bit and over here. And Andor and the other guy are like, because where the bathrooms are, I guess, they're kind of closer to the lift already, so they had a reason to be forward of everybody else, and it kind of made sense in context.
Yeah.
And then basically, dude, all hell breaks loose from here. Like, the lift is already on its way down. The guards up top are like talking smack, like stand down, get back on program, this and that. And then Andor makes his move, and literally all hell breaks loose. Yeah, like this is where it is.
They jam the elevator, and then you hear attack, and they start throwing stuff. You see the guy coming down. He kind of starts fighting with the guard with the shot stick, and then the two top guards started shooting, and then they're like taking cover and throwing. They have a little cutback to see the water come flowing into the room.
Yeah.
Then they're like, you have was it Andor and two others trying to climb up onto the lift to get control of shot stick dude. And they're having no issue because I think he did it a little too soon. Like, it was a little bit too high for him to begin with. But, you know, plans go out the window at first contact, so.
Yeah, first shot. So there's a specific point that I wanted to just highlight here. When Andor's, I feel like at this point, not everybody was in on it yet. But Andor kind of gets his way up onto the platform finally, and he does this move where like he grabs the rail, but he kind of throws a leg sweep at one of the guards with the guns and drops him. And he goes down and he gets himself shot, and in the scramble, Andor turns his gun on the other guard who goes down, shoots him in the leg, and drops him as well. And this at this point, if I didn't want to get copyrighted, but I will. The music, I think this is the part where the music and the score changes a little bit, where everybody sees somebody's made it up to, because he's the first guy up, and the rest of the guys kind of see him kind of breach, and now he goes, they're down, and the Kino goes, everybody climb, and then it's a mad dash. Like, this is the point where the prison break actually happens, this exact moment, because now dudes are just scaling the walls, dude. They're done. They're crawling up.
And then we have the point where the water comes into play.
Yep. Which is the best part, is like they have their little bit of panic, and they're like, fry the floor, and Kino's like, everybody on the tables, and then sure as shit, the plan works. It's like, what happens when you add 45,000 gallons of water to an electrified panel? Overload. And that's exactly how it goes down. Yeah, and what I liked about it is they didn't get everybody on the table in time, if you noticed that. A couple guys didn't make it and they died. Yep.
Yeah, people were shot and killed, to include
a couple of guys from his team.
Yeah, a couple of the co-conspirators, like the people who started this whole thing, they were shot and killed. So people were dying off. It wasn't like it was a masterful.
It wasn't flawless. Yep. Mm-hmm. One of the co-conspirators, like you said, the dude whose name starts with the letter B, the black dude with the curly hair. Like I was kind of pissed. Like, he doesn't make it. Like, his whole thing was, I'm gonna scramble to get to the top and be like the tip of the sword. Like, he gets 2/3 of the way up, and then like the lift shutters and like he falls back or something. And like, he's one of the first 5 guys to die. Dude, boom, done. Like, you're out of the show. Like, there's no respawns. Like, you're done here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, dude, that sucks. Dude. And not like we got to know this guy. Like, he had like very little meaningful dialogue throughout the last 3 episodes that they've been on Narkina.
Yeah.
But
you didn't really learn that much about him at all, but it was still that disappointing moment.
Yeah, dude, definitely. It was a setback for them. So we're only about... Yeah, go ahead.
And then, like, at this point, they start... Even Kino was like, go! As soon as he saw all the lights kind of fall out.
Oh, dude, because when the power... Because the floors... that floor is definitely dead.
Yeah.
Facility-wide, you still don't know. But we're only a third of the way through this whole heist... the prison break. This is where it gets even better, because, like... They found a really cool way that, again, very logical, very how it would actually happen. They found a cool way to show everybody else in the prison kind of reacting to what's going on or how they get brought into it. The water starts fucking leaking through the ceiling and down onto like level 4. I don't know if it's high to low.
Yeah, level 4.
I think it's high to low.
Yeah,
down to because 8 was the top.
Yeah,
right?
8 was the top.
Right. So the water from 5 that they busted out of the pipe is dripping down onto like workstations and table 4, and these dudes are all kind of like,
what's this?
They all kind of give it like the slow look up, what the fuck is going on? And then like a couple of seconds later, I think it's one of Andor's guys is basically like breaking their door open to like let them know the prison break is on. I think that's how they get brought in, because there was a scene in the middle of like Andor's floor gearing up and taking guns out of the locker.
Yeah, they come up, they take out the floor guard, the one who's running the station.
The guy on the station.
And then they take out like 3 more, and then they start handing out the guns, and one breaks out like, hey, it's time to go, one way out. And then and that's when Kino was like, we got to secure the floor. He's like, no, let them do that.
Somebody else
You're
do that
with
shit.
me.
We gotta go. Yep. I'd like to point out too that weapons locker that they had there, dude. There were probably like 20-30 guns there. These guys are stacked. There's not just like one gun between the 50 dudes on their floor. Like, no, they're packing now. Like, they now have more guys and more guns than the facility has security by far. So, this is the part next where the Imperials finally figure out there's a water break. There's a quick scene where they're like, oh yeah, we should go check it out. We gotta wait until like the floor is secure, and then the CO up on that floor is like, no, we gotta get down there now, or we're kind of boned. And then they have kind of their mirror scene where the ISB, or not the ISB, because these guys are just Imperials. They're gearing up now too, like they're getting their guns out of like the locker on their floor to respond, which was kind of a cool back and forth here. Okay, so this is the part here. There's like a little gun battle in the hallway, and then one of Andor's guys walks into a workstation. It's like, we're out, one way out, everybody come on, let's go. And very naturally, again, everything feels like it would be how it would be. The guys that are working are like, the fuck are you? Like, what is going on? Yeah. Like, they don't run right away. They're like, no, this is a trick. You're going to fry me if I stop working. And it's not until... I don't remember the dude's name that does it, but I think he hits the lift and basically like proves to them we're going. Like, he's like, and here comes the elevator. You can climb your way out and do whatever. And this is going on in like different places because different guys from Andor's squad are setting down different levels, probably across level 5. I mean, they're probably still on 5 at some point, but they're making steady progress. Kino and Andor are making steady progress. They're going up. Like, they're going up to take the command centers. Basically, they've left their squad to do the liberation like unit to unit. And these guys do pretty good. I mean, we're not told this was like a military prison, and we know it's not because they have civvies. Yep. But these guys are running and gunning. Some of them are dying. They're not crack shots. They're just exchanging small arms fire at close distance and kind of spraying and praying where they can do whatever.
And that's what kind of happens when you outnumber them. It's a war of attrition at that point.
Right.
Sooner or later, the other teams have run out of people.
Mm-hmm. And all the while, it's kind of like the inverse of a zombie movie in a way. The prisoners are adding to their numbers every section they take because every lift they put down to the work floor frees up 50 dudes. And outside of every work floor is a desk that has a weapons locker that has like 30 blasters. So I mean, you gotta like your odds as this thing's going on.
Yeah.
But the whole thing's really rousing. The music is killing it here. It's got this exciting. It's exciting here, and then as we get, I'm just gonna skip over a little bit of it. More on the music later because there's a little bit more in between. I apologize. We get Kino and Andor up to the command level. And why don't you, this is a King Z scene. They bust in the door. They're just about to fry the unit. Like the head guy's like,
they're
fuck 'em, they're
throwing out
fry
the
whole
warnings.
thing.
And then they're like, step away from the stations. And they're like, how do you turn that off? And the guy tries to play dumb. And then they shoot one. I think they just shoot a guy. And then they point back at him. And it's like, that's his station.
Dude, what happened was they roll in and they tell the head guy, hey, you've got to shut that shit off. And the guy's like, we don't know how to do that. So I think it's Kino just shoots one of the other two dudes out of turn. He's like, bop! And then the other guy that lives goes, actually, I'll shut it down for you. And he kind of, and it's funny. I'm glad we're talking about this part. It was humorous, but it wasn't a Marvel level yuck, kill the moment kind of thing because it happened so fast. It was kind of like when Han shot Greedo, because Han shot first, everybody. That's a fact. I'm going to my grave on that. I'll die on that hill. Like, the CO here gives him some grief, and Kino's like, blah! But there's no joke. There's no facial expression. The other guy's just like, okay, I'll do it from here. But the delivery was kind of funny, very subtly, and I like that.
Yeah, and they were trying to turn off the power station, so there would be no more power to the thing.
Right. And he thought he'd be slick and just shut off the floor instead of shutting it down.
Yeah, and this scene is needed because, one, they have to make sure they secure the facility so all the prisoners are safe. But then he takes over the communications, and this is very important because we go back to what we were talking about. Like, some people were like, they were still hesitant. Yeah. And sidebar, one of the things I really liked about the Wheel of Time series, the books, not that abomination Amazon made.
Sidebar to the sidebar. I have a video coming out about that show in probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
That crappy show has made it onto one of my hit lists. Continue.
But in the books, I listened to the audiobooks, and at the end they have an interview with Robert Jordan after The Eye of the World, which is the first book of the Wheel of Time. And he was talking about, he's like, if you had someone come into your village and tell you, hey, you're the chosen one, and now we gotta go fight evil, you're not gonna be like, well, jolly ho, let's go. It's like, let me buy you a beer, and I will be back maybe later. You sit right there. I'll be back. It's me and you. Which is kind of like how people would really act. If someone came in and told you, you're the chosen one, you're the one who's gonna save all mankind, it's like, really? Me?
Because I work at this Target.
But and they play this with the people. They're like, what's going on? They're kind of hesitant. And then Kino, you see that emotion on his face as he's like, you did do it. He's like, no, this has to come from you. You have to do this.
I'm actually screen capping that point right now, so you'll throw it up on the screen at this exact moment where he's tossing over what he's gonna say, because one of the things we talk about development here all the time, character development, even in this moment, right? Andor does this thing and says, you got to tell him what to do. It has to be you because you're the guy. You're the guy on the block. People trust you because you're not a one-dimensional prison boss villain, right? They know you. They trust you. They believe you, right? He starts to talk, but he falters a little bit because Andor's basically like, that's the best you got. Yeah. And he's like, that's not enough. Like, no one's going to act on that. And then, like, Andy Serkis activates, like, beast mode and gets into the speech.
Yeah.
And why don't you go ahead and tell us all about the speech, because it's good. I got one part I want to talk about, but it's a banger.
It's a slow build, And then he just starts talking. He introduces himself, and then he starts talking about, like, this is our chance. We have to go. There's one way out. We've been fooled all this time, and not anymore. We have to get our freedom now. Climb up, get out. We have the control center. This is our escape now. We have to go now. One way out. There's only one way out. And then everybody starts chanting it. One way out. One way out, as they start going. And then you see the Imperials, like, they're hiding in, like, a corridor. They're like, nope, we're not messing with this.
Yeah, so they hide behind the door. Yeah,
I don't get paid enough to handle this.
Yeah, dude,
this is someone else's problem. Not my problem, not my bag.
Dude, this was a great. This might be one of the better kind of like monologues I've seen in a while, and it just goes to show when you mix, like you said, good writing with good performances. Like, dude, I'm goosebumps watching the replay because it was good. Again, he sells it. This was the specific part where he says, "We know they're making our sentences up. No one's going home. No one outside in the world knows what's going on here. No one's leaving here alive. Like, this is it, right?" And one of the cool, like, we talk about Kraft here a lot, you know, one of the juxtapositions that they ran is when he's trying to convince people to kind of rise up and do the thing, he specifically says, all the floors are cold. And as he's saying that, they had, the camera had been on one inmate who just they kind of focused on him a little bit. And then it does that cutaway, and it's kind of just the voiceover where Kino says all the floors are cold. And the one guy hesitates, and then when the camera shifts again, it's his 1 foot stepping down on the floor to test it, and of course the floor is cold, and that's when other people start to move, which was pretty cool. My favorite part of this speech for me, right, is he gets to this one point where he goes, you need to run, climb, and kill, but then right after he goes, you need to help each other. Right? Yeah. He says, you see someone who's confused, someone who's lost, someone doesn't know how to do, you get them moving and you keep them moving. So, dude, this is a guy 100%. He's not one-dimensional prison boss piece of shit guy. Like, he actually, to whatever level he could, cared about the guys under his command, you know? And that was such a killer point in this speech. Right. Like when Olaf died, he's holding his head, holding his hands and shit.
It was all about getting them out. Everyone do your time. And we'll all get out here together.
Oh yeah. Before he died, I'm like, and even how he treated him as he was dying, and then after he passed. Like, this is a guy that had compassion the whole time, and it makes him an actual living, breathing character and not just a cutout. But there's something about putting a message of helping people or having hope inside a bleak scenario, like a prison break from like a life sentence, where it's like, you know, this only works if we work together. So if you see someone who's confused or lost or doesn't know what to do, get them fucking moving. This only works if we're all going the same way, you know. And it was so good, so fucking good. Like, work for me. I'm like, all right, let's storm the gates, have fun storming the castle. Yeah, like, you know, we can do that. Because right after he says that, they literally have shots of guys helping each other up over into the next levels off the lifts, and guys giving guns to other guys as they're like running down the hall to gear up. And it's in stark juxtaposition to, like you said, the Imperials. They're all now cowering under cover wherever they can. I don't blame them, dude. I'm doing the same shit, like you said. They don't pay me enough to put down a riot, you know. But so that gets us. We're getting pretty close to the ice. So this is the end of the prison break scene. And this is a bit of a heartbreaker, man. They're running towards the light. You're like, dude, daylight, fresh air, this and that. And it reminded me of A New Hope when Luke and Leia are running and they almost run out of room when they're in the Death Star and almost fall off the bridge because the bridge is retracted. So give us the breakdown. I know you know what I'm talking about. Give us the breakdown here.
They all come up and then they look down and realize they're like 20 stories up from water.
Yeah.
And there's just water all the way around them. And then they're like, there's only one way out. They start jumping.
Yep.
Yep.
You can see land in the distance. That there is, you can see land away. It's a swim, dude. It wouldn't be easy. Like, it probably killed most of these dudes. I'm guessing it did.
Yeah, but I mean, if you ask a paratrooper, they rather land on ground than water if their parachute doesn't open, because it's like hitting concrete.
Oh yeah, dude. You got to battle the chute to get out of it, and not get weighed down or everything else. I'm sure
most of them don't survive hitting the water. It's like their whole internals will be gone.
Ugh. Yeah, no, I'm good with that. So here's where we get a gut punch here, and I kind of hate it. I'm not gonna lie. I disagree. I would have written this differently as they go, but like, so you basically got like a lemming effect going on here. Where like the first wave of dudes get up to the top. they're shocked by, oh shit, it's like 20 feet of water. It's not a helicopter pad or whatever. Like we didn't think this shit all the way through. But they start sorting that shit out. And like you said, one of the guys from Andor's team is like one way out, and he's like going for it. Like, this is it, freedom or bust.
And then there's
the guys start trickling over. But more guys. It's not over the top riotous, anything like that. Because a couple of guys, as we see, are standing there long enough to have a conversation. And this is the sad point where fucking Andor looks back at Kino, who's hesitating. And why is this motherfucker hesitating right here?
I can't swim.
Oh, dude.
And then Andor couldn't hear him. And he was like,
right.
He's like, what did you say? And he's like, and he keeps saying it lower and lower. I can't swim.
Right.
I can't swim. And then Andor gets taken over the side before he can actually figure out a way to fix it.
Yep. Oh, dude. It still hurts just to see it. It was weird too, because when Kino says I can't swim, when he repeats himself, like he says I can't swim, but he kind of just like shrugs and has this little smile, like it was almost enough to be free, like we did it, like I was already dead. Like, dude, why wouldn't you just number one, why wouldn't you just jump, right? Why wouldn't you just jump and hit the water and hope for the best, right? Because if you stay, they're gonna kill you. Like there will be a point where like ISB rolls in and Star destroys the bait. I don't know. Like there's a response coming, you know.
Yeah.
But like nobody could have grabbed this dude and swam him or assisted him in some way. Really.
Yeah.
This is the end for this fucking character. This is the most not Game of Thrones death to a character ever. Like the only thing it would have been more Game of Thrones had he been trampled to death. But that I don't think was the vibe they were going for here.
No, they weren't going for that.
You know what I mean? But like, dude, it was a show about, this episode was about hope and freedom and breaking free, and like, it abruptly stops with that. Yeah, and I don't think I'll ever forgive the show for this. I'm pissed about that. I really am.
Your limitations.
Oh, dude. Like, dude, just jump, bro. Just jump. There's 70,000 dudes jumping in. Like, figure like somebody's gonna drown. Use him as a flotation device. I don't know. Like, there's got to be something. I don't know, dude. But that for me, that legitimately pissed me off, because I was, especially, I was okay with him not being able to swim because I figured they'd creatively resolve that shit. But then when Andor gets bumped over the side, I'm like, well, this is it. Like they're never coming back here. Like this character is off the show.
Yep,
like he's done now. And I'm like, motherfucker. And so the scene ends up on like a really cool overview, like a top down of Narkina 5. And like the 3 exit points where everybody's jumped from is just like flooding the water and like streams of like people swimming away against like blue water, and they're heading towards land, dude. But that landfall looked really far away, dude. I don't think a whole lot of people probably aren't making that swim.
Nope. But hope can drive someone that far.
Yep, dude. We hope, and I hope to see it. So we get wrapped up. I think this is the last scene here. Yep. I think it goes to credits after. Oh, no, there's one more, because we get to see Andor one more time. It's really
that's brief. Right. Yeah, the very
last
really 10
brief.
seconds of the show.
Right. This is the last functional story-pushing kind of scene here. So as it turns out, Rael's rebellion had a man on the inside of the ISB, and guess who it was? It was Lonnie. Oh, wait, you guys don't know his name either because they've never used it before.
The redhead.
So, yeah, no. Lonnie's the redhead with the really cool stash from like the 80s or the 70s something. So he's out of uniform. He's cloaked up. It's nighttime.
They're in a rundown
I guess they're
section.
But they're on ISB headquarter planet, because like he was never on Ferrix, right? Because he's where are they? They're on the same. Yeah. Oh, right. That's right. Because that's where the shop is in the embassy. Yep. So he's cloaking up. We get a little spot. What do they call it? Cloak and dagger. We get some spycraft here. He's walking down dark alleys. He gets on an elevator. He reaches up to the top for something we can't see, and bada bing, he finds like the hidden comm device and kind of earpieces up. And who's on the other end of the line?
Our good friend Rael.
There you go.
And so, dude,
take this one away.
Yeah, he keeps talking to him like he knows this guy. He's like, how's your kid doing? I see you have a kid now. He's like, you've done very well for yourself. And the guy's like, and he's like, I got information for you. Your guys are going to get ambushed. They know about the attack on the power station. You want to watch out for Deborah Mordra.
Miro. Daedra Miro.
Daedra Miro. She's your new enemy. And then he's like, I want out. And then this is when everything changes. Like it's like kind of hard to root for the rebel leader at this point because of what he does to this guy.
I said this to you.
But his speech at this.
Yeah.
Like, Kino's speech was the best speech until now. I mean, they
Right.
it lasted all of, 5 minutes being the best speech.
But it's two very different speeches, admittedly, though. It's almost an apples and oranges situation, because the one of them is the very hopeful thing, and the other one is the very, it's not that it's not hopeful, but it's like it's dark. You know what I mean? One's very light, one's very dark.
Yeah.
Right?
And
go ahead, keep going. There's a lot going on here.
He's like, you guys weren't there. He's like, I'm the one who came. I got up. I climbed the ladder. I got to where you needed. I've given you information time and time again. I need out. And he's like, we can't let you out. He's like, you're too important to us. And then he was like, well, and then he's like, he talks about, like, I'm not going to stop you guys from killing Keegan and his men attacking the power station. He's like, I'm doing that for you, because they would know.
And your
I
daughter.
would have and your daughter. He's like, because they would know I have someone in the ISB, because no one else knows that this is happening. If I told them to stop, he's like, I'm doing this for you. And he's like, but my sacrifice. He's like, what do you sacrifice? And this is when he just turns it on. God. And he's like, love, family, money. He's like, and then he just keeps going on. I can't remember the whole speech. I wish I memorized it.
It's nasty.
But it's pretty much, I sacrifice everything.
Oh, dude,
that's why I can't let you go.
And Rail growls that dude, and this, when we talk about proper characterization and delivery and things like that, because this guy's not in the habit of yelling every 5 fucking seconds, when his tone gradually builds to this frustrated, angry spot, like, yeah, dude, I know you're on the inside of the ISB, but I've given up fucking everything. Like, I have no wife, I have no child, I have nothing.
Yes.
You know, it was awesome, dude. He killed that moment, killed it.
And he's a Sarsgaard. I mean,
yeah, dude. Yep.
Anything less would be unacceptable.
And it shows. Dude, I just want to talk about other parts of the scene real quick too, like on the visual level. I like when Lonnie gets up to the top. He's basically riding a lift for most of the conversation, and it's mostly there back and forth about I want out. He's basically like, "Why are you really here today, Lonnie?" And that's when he asks about, I'm going to be up out of here. But when the door opens, I had 2 things I wanted to say. Number one, Rail looks like the Emperor here. He's standing there. The cloak is just the black cloak just billowing behind him against this throne room looking thing, but it's like obviously like an alley and like an overwalk and things like that.
And
but he looks like an absolute villain. Dude, right, that's what I'm saying, dude. He looks like an absolute villain, right? And the whole time this conversation's happening, Lonnie's in the elevator. Like, he never steps out.
No.
Right? And Rail's kind of a bit of at a distance. He gets a little closer. He doesn't really do a whole lot of moving. But when Lonnie asks him what he sacrificed, dude, the slow march as he's just getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I hope you brought a gun, because I think he's going to kill you.
Yep.
Like, I think Lonnie might try to outdraw you here, because he's looking pretty terrified. And this is where I wanted to bring special mention to the unnamed character who just kills with performance. This fucking guy, Lonnie.
Yep.
Him running down the reasons why he wants out, they're so credible, they're so genuine, they're so authentic. He basically says, I'm a father now, and I didn't know what that would feel like. And that's just something you just fucking get. It's like, it's a thing when you're 20 and you want to be fucking, you want to be Antifa and fight the patriarchy or whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter, because it's just you. And if you get hurt or die, nobody gives a fuck. That goes out the fucking window when you get married, or you have a kid, or you're taking care of your dad who's like 90 or some shit. Now it matters what happens to you. And this dude just absolutely sells it. He gets the quivery lip. He looks a little flop sweaty. He looks nervous. Like he's not sure that elevator's not going to drop out from underneath him. And I thought that the whole time. I'm like, that's some shit he would do. That's some shit Rail would do. Loose ends, drop the elevator. He's got the remote. He can do it.
I was about to say, he had the device.
He's got the clicker.
Controlling the elevator the whole time.
Yep. 100%. So like, I don't think there's been a character on this show I've been more nervous for, even during the prison break, even during the bank heist, and even during the shootout in episode 3. It was Lonnie. It was this dude, because I'm like, oh no, because you're gonna get Rogue One. This is gonna be that part from the beginning of Rogue One where Andor shoots the guy who couldn't climb out. That way he couldn't be the loose end. That's this guy. He's the loose end. Like, Rail's gonna shoot you. He's already put people out to look for Andor who helped him with the heist. You know what I mean? Like, he will loose end you. But I was like, dude, this is some good shit. And the other more comical thing I wanted to point out about this scene, do they just not? And I think Family Guy did this, but do they just not have safety rails on anything over 10 feet in this fucking world? Like
No.
he's on like level 15 or some shit
And
of like an elevator.
He's up there walking
and
on
the
high
catwalk,
steel.
right, dude. The catwalk's like 4 feet wide. Right, wind is blowing, and there's nothing. It's just like an open platform. I'm like, bro, safety code just does not exist in the Star Wars expanded universe. It just doesn't.
No.
Yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier too, and this is just more like deep cut shit that I know that you'll just get a kick out of. When they were in the prison, did you notice that on the command center desk where they deactivated the floors, that the communication device, like the microphone, was the exact same thing as in episode 4 on the prison block?
Yep.
Where he says, "Oh yeah, we had a weapons leak, large leak, like the Han Solo bit."
How are
like
you
that,
doing?
It was that same exact. Who is this? What's your operating number, dude? It was the exact same device, and I was just like, "Oh, I like that. I like when they actually do shit like that." You know, because you can put the droids in, you can have stormtroopers in and lightsabers and shit, but small, subtle things like that, I'm like, that's probably the device they would have, because like A New Hope was like 10 seconds after this, so it's not probably like the models of like aircraft carrier radio equipment changed in 5 years. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was kind of cool. I did enjoy that. But dude, let's get some closing thoughts on this piece, and then let's before closing thoughts. Let's do the pre-show shit. Give me the writer and the director. We forgot again this week. I forgot to ask you.
It's still the exact same. I think these are the ones that are going to be closing out, except for the last 2 episodes will be written by Tony himself.
So Tony didn't write 10?
No.
Okay, I thought Tony had the last 3, but you're on top of that. I'll go with whatever you say. True,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So give me closing thoughts here, and then score at the end of that out of 5.
Well, we'll close out the show with
Yep.
Andor running on the beach. He made
Oh, dude,
the
my
swim.
bad. Made the
Him
swim, and he's
one
got
other
friends.
person.
I was like, he's got a dude with him. That was Melshi. Was that the guys? I think
did
that was
not
Melshi.
see. It was dark. I just to make out Andor's uniform. And I was guessing that was him too because it's his show. So
Makes
I
sense.
just took a logical guess.
For sure, it was one of the dudes from his. I think it was because most of the other guys at his table were darker skinned, except for the 2 guys that got into the fist fight. Because one of those guys jumped, the guy with the red hair. It wasn't him. One of the guys got shot. There were 2 guys with darker skin. We haven't seen them since.
Red
it was
hair.
the guy with
I
like
think
the,
red
the
hair bit it
shortish hair.
too.
Did he get? He was he? Oh, I think he was shot in the hallway.
Yeah,
he was
I
shot in
think
the
he
hallway
bit it
scene.
too. Yeah.
It was the dude that had initially given Andor a little bit of guff when he got to the prison, and basically Kino had to tell him like shut his trap kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
Okay.
But so yeah, we wrap on that where Andor's made the 70-mile swim, and it looks like he's running into like nothing up that beach. That beach looks pretty big, and there's not a whole lot of city skyline going on anywhere in the nearly accessible future. So I don't know what episode 11 is going to do with that. Hopefully they skip that shit. Hopefully they just be like, they address it in like a line where it's like, we found a camp and we radioed, and I don't want to see an episode of them slow burning, trapped on a beach or in the wilderness with the ISB running after them. I really don't. I don't think it
that's gonna
serves
be
the
an
story at that
issue.
point.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be an issue with only 2 episodes left because they're
Right.
going to want to have that big hard hitter in 12 that gets you to want to tune in for season 2.
Oh, dude, he's going back to Ferrix. That's where this is going to head. That's the only logical conclusion for him to go is to go to Ferrix, because he'll find out somehow from Rail, I'm guessing, that Marva's sick, and we'll see what Marva does. And like we were predicting before, I think there's likely she'll die, I think, and that'll be the thing that throws him into full rebellion mode. I think that's where we're going. So we're doing predictions. My bad. I was letting King Z do end of show thoughts. So dude, overall impressions, guy, what did you think?
Overall, this was a very well thought out and executed episode. We saw the build up for a while now to this. There was everything that they set up before in the previous episodes paid off during this. You had the water that we found out, the pipe. You had the floor, how they're going to beat this. They had the plan that they talked about, and then executing the plan, realizing that every plan doesn't work out. Like, you make the plan, you execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, make the new plan.
Rinse, repeat.
Yeah, and that's what we saw here. We saw heartfelt emotion through 2 amazing actors with Circus and Skarsgård with their performance and their speeches. And like, I bet, and I will bet you this, Skarsgård could play a silent role and have you feeling more than a person with 1,000 lines of dialogue.
That man's got gravitas for days.
The way he works with his face, his motions, he doesn't. There's no wasted motion. There's no wasted words. There's no wasted anything. Everything goes to drive that character. I mean, we saw that in Black Panther when he played the guy. We see it in this. We saw him as Smeagol. Now they changed his voice.
You're talking about Circus now, right?
Yeah, I've been talking about Circus.
Okay. You're talking about Skarsgård. I'm like, I don't think he was in Black Panther unless I missed it. My bad. I missed the part where you segued. Keep going.
Yes, yeah, Circus was though, because he was the dealer of the vibranium.
Yep.
But yeah, so the team here has done an extraordinary job. I mean, if they ended it now, you still got the huge cliffhanger of like what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
Because usually these don't get 12 episodes. They're usually cut at 6 to 8. So we have extended time to get this story flushed out, and it can get you these little heartstring moments like we had in the Prison Break, and then realizing what Rail is going through, and also what his network is going through. Like, this guy's a father. He's inside the ISB, and he wants to give both of them. He doesn't want to be a spy anymore. He doesn't want to be working for the ISB. He wants to just go be a dad and live on a beach somewhere, probably. Wants to be fishing.
They said that his wife's family owns an importing business or some shit. So he was basically just going to like transition out of the military and be like, go off on his life. That was his idealized plan. Yep. True that.
So I wish one day I get an opportunity to make something like this.
Yep.
That's the quality of work here, is that I would love to have my name on something like this. And I think that's the highest praise I could give.
That's some solid praise. And I just wanted to add two things to what you said before I hit you up for a score. When you're talking about no wasted motions in the acting, I just rewatched the episode before we got on just because I'd watched it last week. And in that Rail scene at the end, when Lonnie asks him what Rail has sacrificed, right? Rail does this, or Skarsgård, the actor, does this really subtle thing where like he's quiet, because the character's quiet for the most part, but he does this thing where he just kind of like, he looks down in a way like he has to consider the bulk and the breadth of the answer that's coming. And it's not an eye roll. It's not like some overstated, like, wincing, weird thing. It's just like this subtle, really thing. Dude, I don't think I picked that up the first time, but I was watching it more hardcore because I knew we were going to talk about it today. He did that, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, somebody get this guy an award. Because that moment, like, not every actor would probably think to do that. Not every director would probably be like, all right, so what we need you to do here, Kingsley, is look all, introspective, but don't be 10 out of 10. Be like 6 out. Right on the money was that, just that subtle ass expression, and it just absolutely sold that moment.
But you get to think of the pain that's going to be coming out in that answer. Of what I
and it comes through.
Sacrificed to make this happen.
Yeah. So I should have put together a text version of that just so I could like put it up on the screen like a Star Wars scroller or something, like while we were talking about it, because like it's a banger of an answer. And when he gets that growling everything at the end, it's loud, it echoes in the alley, and I'm like, huh. So he dropped his guard as the spy master long enough to like make his effing point, you know. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, because it was a good catch on your part. You're right, they could have ended here on the cliffhanger of we escaped the prison. Like, that's the thing. Like, that was the third act of the show in a 10 episode set. That would have been the objective. Set on 8, 9, and 10, prison break. So he's on the beach, he's out. So now your second season is I'm on the run from the Imperials and Rail, because they both want me, right? But you're right, we have 2 more episodes because we do have a couple of loose ends that actually have fucking meaning and impact and need to be resolved. He needs to go back to Ferrix. He needs to go get his money, or wherever he got picked up from, the beach planet or wherever he is. Like, he's probably going to go there, I would imagine, because all like his cash is there. He might. But like, we've got Brasso, we've got Bix, who's still in custody, right? Yep. They ain't let her out yet. Marva's sick or injured. Like, his hometown is occupied. There are meaningful things that they can address in the next 2 episodes. And because this isn't, we almost made it all the way through without mentioning a shitty Marvel show. Because this isn't a shitty Marvel show and the runtime isn't 11 minutes, they can do meaningful stuff with the 40. I think this one was 44, adjusted down after credits. There's stuff they can do that is compelling and makes me want to watch.
Yeah.
So like I'm down for 2 more. Now I'll be annoyed just like I was annoyed when House of the Dragon ended. I'll be annoyed that this show's over and we're gonna have to wait probably a year, 14 months or so to get season 2. Oh God, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
It's gonna be 2024 before we see the next season.
Damn, I was hoping they were already on top of that. But anyways, scores out of 5. I bet you're going high, obviously, because we liked it. But how high are we going? Dude, he's maxing it out. He maxed out the scale. He went all 5? You're kidding me. You went all 5?
I went
5
all
out of
5.
5? Whoa.
I'm loving this series completely.
I don't think you've given any episode a straight 5 out of 5, though. I think this. You didn't give Aldani a 5 out of 5.
I don't give audiobooks out of 5. It's usually a 4.
Think there's always room for an improvement. Yeah.
But I mean, they're hitting gold. Everything they're doing, they're just hitting gold.
Wow, dude, he went all he went all 5 out of 5, 5 piece. All right, dude, I'll take that. I think usually, let me give you a couple of closes. I basically just babbled on because I liked it so much all episode long too. Dude, again, mentions to acting. Everybody is good. Diego Luna taking control of the prison break. That's the guy I wanted to see. He had pussyfooted around. This is episode 10. 8 out of those other 9 episodes, he was a participant but didn't really drive much. But I mentioned the scene earlier when he's the first guy climbing up and he grabs the rail and he leg sweeps the one guy and shoots it, bam. There's like some action hero kind of stuff. I'm like, okay. Like it's not that it required violent action for me to be on board with him as like the leading guy, but it required definitive action as him to be the leading guy. And that was that. And I'm like, okay, finally we're here. This is it. Because even during the escape scene or the heist scene, he's still basically taking orders from other people, and he's just kind of a member of the team kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's on his own now running shit for that part. So to the final, and with the conversations between him and Kino, where he's enlisting him to like, listen, dude, I need you to get on board. It needs to be you. He didn't, and again, a crappy show would have had Andor give the speech in the prison.
Yep.
And be like, yeah, no, we have to go. We have to go now. He knew, and the writers knew, that the message had to come from the established statesman within the system for that whole thing to work. So it was smart. It was well acted in. The prison break was 15 minutes long. None of it was boring. No. There was no downtime where like the Imperials caught their breath and a counterattack and recaptured this guy. And now we got to go back and get him. Nope, dude, it was start to finish. The plan was good. It all made sense how they worked it through. I thought they very cleverly gave us brief but needed insights to what the ISB was up to about how their plan to kind of trap the Krieger group to kind of bait them in, because that was the group that was going to launch the attack on Spellhouse. We know and by extension we now know that Rail is going to let that happen, even though the ISBs know they're coming. So he's sacrificing pawns on the board, which is kind of interesting because I do believe Saw Gerrera's character didn't want to go along with that whole strike because that guy was a knucklehead Krieger, and he might not have trusted Rail 100%. So I think in one of these next 2 episodes, we're going to get a follow-up scene between those guys, where Saw Gerrera's going to be like, Luthen, you let those men die, yada yada yada. I told you that I wasn't going to get in bed with you, kind of thing. And I think that'll be good conflict going into season 2 also.
Yeah.
So I mean, they did so much well, and you could just talk about stuff done well for so long, right down to the little detail. The Lonnie scene at the end.
Yeah.
Awesome. Not even just for Rail's speech, but for his performance was fantastic. The Mon Mothma stuff, which I overlooked again. There was no fist fight in that scene. There was no like Game of Thrones sexual assault scene in there to make you kind of cringe or anything like that. Dude, it was people having a conversation that was uncomfortable, given context, and because we knew one character needed something and the other character didn't. Yep. She needed Davo. Davo walked right up out of that place with the finished drink and was like, adios, you call me when you're ready. And then it ends on a conflict point where, like you said, the whole thing was like, she's like, I don't need to think about it, I'm good. And he's like, oh, well, that's the first lie you told. You'll call. And we know she's going to, because what else is she going to do?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, dude, all around, dude, I won't give it 5 because I'm going to be that guy. I can't give anything a perfect score because I hate how they did my boy Kino at the end of that. I know that's not a flaw in the episode objectively, but I'm going to subjectively stick it.
We're nitpicking.
Yeah, I had to. If I had to grasp for a dislike, it's because I wanted better for that character. I really did. 4.75. I'll just nickel it off just a little bit just because of that thing, dude. My favorite episode by far. I think when you do your setups right, these are the good books we read. Like, I'm a big fan of the Dresden Files. This felt like one of my more favorite Dresden Files novels, because you get a couple of 100 pages of story, and then the pace picks up, and then Butcher does this better than anybody, in my opinion. The payoffs are always there because you love the characters. You love Harry. You love Michael. You love Murphy. You just love them all. So like when they have their ups and downs, you're buckled in right next to them. Like when one of them gets hurt, you're with them. When one of them wins, you're right there. You know what I mean? And this show, when these guys got out after having banded together, and it's special mention, we got through an entire show that had 4 episodes in a prison, and there wasn't any stupid ass contrived arguing amongst prisoners that resulted in a riot. There was no stereotypical gang warfare on the inside, and mainly probably because this was like a work facility. It might have been a little bit different, but there were opportunities and pitfalls that I think they dodged here to make mistakes in that setting, and they avoided them all. So kudos to that, guys. That was a banger for me. Winterwolf says 4.75. King Z says 5 out of 5. Still don't believe it. What's up next on your agenda, dude? We know you're still in the undisclosed location. We're back on time next week for episode 11, I'm sure.
Yep.
Anything else going on?
No, I'm just, I'm still getting settled here. I've been here for over a week now. I got here last Friday, been working every day since. Getting my routine down, going to get some writing started. I got a short script I'm starting on, which I'm doing a treatment as a short story and then doing a feature of the same story. So it's kind of like I have a smaller script for a proof of concept for the larger script.
Dude, nice. Dude, sounds interesting. Stay on the line after we're done here, because I'm going to run a story idea by you that I came up with in the last couple of days that I wanted to go the screenwriting route on, just as a hobby piece, just to do. I had an idea after watching something else, so we'll stick around for that. But I think that's going to be it for King Z and I, guys. We love when you stop by and check us out. Smash the like button if you don't mind. Comments on the show if you were watching. I'm guaranteeing you enjoyed this episode. Nobody's walking away from this one having not liked it. Not a chance. Sub to the channel if you don't mind. And Winterwolf and King Z will see you next week. Bye, guys.